Hey, my name is Mitchell Keys, and the project I did was landscape change of Curry and Josephine County in Oregon. So to start with some background, Josephine and Curry County are located on the southwest tip of Oregon. I've outlined them in red on the map to the bottom right side. The Pacific Ocean is to the west of Curry County, and then California is to the south of both counties. Both counties also have mild climates, with Curry averaging only 1 inch of snow per year and Josephine 5 inches. Curry County does see a lot of rain, however, averaging 81 inches per year, and then Josephine only has about 36 inches per year. Both counties also rarely see temperatures below freezing, and in the warmer months, Curry averages 71 degrees Fahrenheit, and then Josephine is a little hotter, averaging 91 degrees Fahrenheit. And the reason I looked into this area is that when looking at the two NLCD maps of the area from 2001 and 2016, which are to the top right side, you can see that there was a large portion of the landscape where there was a visual change in the cover type in the two counties. I believe this was important to investigate due to such a large change happening in a relatively short period of time. This now brings me to the research question I used to guide me, which was what cover type changed the most and what does that mean for the future of this landscape? Other specific objectives investigated were why the cover type was changing in the first place and also to determine what percentage of each cover type changed. This was important to find out for the fact, as I stated earlier, such a large part of the landscape had changed, which could have significant impacts on the local ecosystem. The two hypotheses I came up with were that there was a disturbance that changed the landscape, and then the second is that the landscape is changing due to the climate of the area changing. So now getting into the methods. Map data for the two counties were retrieved from the Multi-Resolution Land Characteristics Consortium, or the MRLC, and then also the ArcGIS website. The National Land Cover Database, or NLCD, maps of 2001 and 2016 were retrieved from the MRLC website, and then county boundary lines were taken from the ArcGIS website. The two county boundary lines combined together were then used as boundaries for the study area. The maps were first used in an overlay analysis in ArcMap. The areas were tabulated so that the data could be put into a table comparing how the landscape changed and could then be processed further in Excel. In Excel, a transition matrix was created to find probabilities for each of the cover type changes. Future predictions of the landscape were estimated using the mmult function, and the results were then put into bar graphs. Looking at the results, first going back to the NLCD maps of the counties is a good starting point. This area of land has changed from having mostly evergreen forest, which is dark green on the map, to more shrub and scrub, which is the light brown and tannish color, seen taking over areas where evergreen was. There is a pretty clear boundary to the affected area, which was one of the reasons I believed that there was a disturbance, maybe like fire, causing these changes. This top bar graph shows how all the cover types are estimated to change up until the year 2061. There are only a few dominant cover types with significant change, however, so that's what this second bar chart below is showing. It is clear that evergreen is by far the most dominant cover type in this landscape, but as time goes on, it has a steep drop-off in its percentage of land cover, and its dominance is almost taken over by shrub and scrub by the year 2061. And while mixed forest cover type loses a small amount of its coverage, herbaceous plants gain a small amount of land cover, but then it evens off after about 2031. This table helps show the exact changes to each landscape cover type from 2001 to 2016. Looking across the row for shrub and scrub in 2016, it is clear that many other cover types are converting to shrub and scrub, with 17% of deciduous forest, 15% of evergreen forest, 13% of mixed forest, and then 20% of herbaceous land becoming shrub and scrub. This is a very big change in the landscape for only happening in 15 years, which further adds to the hypothesis that a disturbance caused this change. The mmult function was used to create this chart and estimate how the landscape coverage in percentage would change from 2001 to 2061. This chart is also beneficial to show how the cover types with minimal changes have changed, and you can really see the transition from mostly evergreen to more shrub and scrub. In the 60-year span from 2001 to 2061, it is estimated evergreen will lose about 23% of coverage on the landscape. Shrub and scrub, on the other hand, gain about 25% of the coverage on the landscape. The minor increase in herbaceous cover is shown here as well, and it evens out at about 5.3% of the total landscape. Mixed forest goes from having about 7% of the cover to only about 4.7%. After looking through all this information, I narrowed my hypothesis down to that there must be a disturbance causing the landscape change due to the fact that the changes are happening in one area of the landscape. It has a semi-clear boundary to it, the change, and it happened in a very short period of time. Upon further investigating, I discovered my hypothesis to be true. Multiple disturbances have happened in this area since 2001, all of which were fire. On this map to the right, Curry and Josephine County are highlighted in red. The Biscuit Fire, highlighted in yellow on the map, is the main fire that changed the landscape in this region. The Biscuit Fire is known to be one of Oregon's biggest and most costly fires, so that definitely contributed a lot to this change. Management implications show that the area should be better managed for wildfire, considering multiple large ones have occurred in this region in just 15 years. Because the loss of evergreen was probably caused by these fires, attempting to restore the landscape to how it was pre-fire may be beneficial as well. There are some limitations and assumptions that come with this analysis. One big assumption used is that fire is what caused all the areas that had evergreen to turn into shrub and scrub. To confirm or reject that fire is the cause, each year, before and after of areas burned by wildfires would then need to be analyzed. A limitation of the analysis is that future events could easily change the future predictions of the landscape. For example, if another large fire occurred and burned another large portion of the evergreen forest, it may no longer be the dominant cover type and shrub and scrub could take over. Finally, to answer the question of what this means for the future of the landscape, it is possible this region should expect to see a drier climate due to the conversion to more shrub and scrub and their ability to not retain water as well as evergreens. There could also be an increased chance of erosion in the area if shrub and scrubs do not help prevent erosion as well as evergreen trees and their roots can. For future directions this research could go, it is likely it could be beneficial in helping land managers of this area determine what cover type they should manage for. Since shrub and scrub is emerging as a more dominant cover type, they could try managing the land for evergreens in hopes that they return instead. Lastly, the findings in this project could help fire management if used along with a fire intensity map of the area to determine what cover types and what areas are at most risk for wildfire. And then last thing here is my references, and I just want to say thank you for listening to my presentation.